All right, it is Tuesday. It is a new year, a new season. We're kicking things off here with the good old boys, Billy Allen, Alex Torday, Frank Bradica, Justin Elaine coming at you. We've got a whole lot to tackle tonight. The Pats crushed the Jets in the last game of the 2020 season. And Cam Newton is finally out of town, thank God. Tom Brady ending his season on a high note. And the Eagles, I don't know what happened in that game, but they're out of the playoffs and the Redskins are in. We're going to be talking about the MVP candidates, the rookies of the years. We'll do some awards. Then we'll hit the NBA where Payton Prichard is really getting all the highlights here in Celtic Town. And the Raptors aren't looking so good. Pascal Siakam has been, he's been sucking. But Steph Curry has been showing us who he is. He's averaging 32 a game, 62 points the other night. And we'll talk about who's been the biggest surprise this year and get into MVP candidates. To start it out, let's swing it around. And the Pats crushed the Jets in their final game of the 2020 season. A little bit of post-mortem on that game the other night. Cam Newton looking pretty good, not as a quarterback, but as a tight end. That was nice to see him out in the open. Maybe if he puts on another 10, he can come back next year, not as a quarterback, but as a tight end. Pats with the 15th pick in the draft. Who do we think we'll take? But we'll start out with what do you guys think? What was your impression of the game the other night? Kind of looked like the Pats almost played their best game maybe of the season against the Jets. But that being said, it was against the 2-14 Jets. They end a long season here, guys. We didn't think they were going to look anything like this. But what are your final thoughts as we wrap up the Pats?
Yeah, well, they played the Jets, and that's all I'm going to say. Frank, you can take it from here.
Guys, something has happened here, and it doesn't happen very often. I was arguably 200% wrong about Cam Newton. It looked bad. We were bad. Bill Belichick was not the great deodorant that made everybody smell better. It was a miserable season. He had 20 total touchdowns, I think. I believe he had 14 giveaways, and so many of them were in the red zone. I mean, just a poetically bad season for us.
God, I was so pissed when we kept scoring points. I'm like, come on, we want to lose this game. I wanted us to lose so badly. And then Jacoby Myers threw the second best ball of the Patriots season this year. Thank God this season's over. Thank God. I cannot wait for the draft, for us to rebuild. And like Frank, I was wrong on this season. Not necessarily on Cam Newton. I just thought Bill would figure it out and we would make it work. And I was clearly wrong. He sucks. I'm glad it's finally over.
All right, well, I guess now is where I wasn't even going to say anything, but if you guys are admitting you're wrong, I'm going to go ahead and say I was right about Cam. I, however, was not right that he was going to be replaced as a Patriots quarterback, even though he should have been, based on the eye test, based on what he brought to the field every Sunday. He should have been replaced, and they should have given Stidham a chance. They didn't do that. That's fine. Cam, you were terrible. I know you tried really hard, and I appreciate that. I think all of New England, we definitely appreciate how hard you tried and that you were the first guy and last guy out. But see you later. Good riddance, and ready for the next chapter. The only positive I can even take out of this season is that it just made me appreciate what we had with Tom that much more.
Yeah, good riddance, Cam. Don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you. I can't wait for you to pack your bags and get out of here. I want to take my victory lap as well. I said he was cash before he got here. And, I just knew it was going to be a long, trying season. It was exactly that. And Cam Newton just can't throw. And, he was kind of like a spectacular athlete at the quarterback position. He made it work for a few years in Carolina. But I'm so glad he's out of here. With that being said, we're going to flip the page to Tom Brady ending his season on a pretty high note, 40 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, almost 4,700 yards. Arguably probably like a top 5 MVP candidate. And obviously Tampa Bay ending things strong, scoring 44 points in that affair. So, guys, what do we think about Tom Brady now that he's gone? now that it's kind of in our faces that he's basically rubbing it in. It takes a team that wasn't in the playoffs. Now we're out of the playoffs ourselves. What do we say about Tom Brady?
I love you, Tom. Thank you for everything. That's all I have to say.
Justin looks like he wants to say something.
Yeah, go ahead, Justin.
No, I was going to say, he looks fantastic. The way his hair goes when he takes his helmet off, he looks great. I mean, all his balls he throws, it's just a dagger in the heart when you watch him throw, and then you watch Cam Newton throw the balls in the dirt, 10-yard balls. It's just like, I miss you, Tom, and I'm a Bucks fan, rooting for him to win the chip this year.
The Bucks will not be winning the championship. The
I
Bucks
know
are going
that.
into a boxing match with the Washington football team. Hey, look, man, he's the best 43-year-old quarterback we've ever seen. He's probably the best football player we've ever seen. He acted like a little whiny prick on his way out, and I just can't respect that. I'm just so sorry.
Oh, that's a hot take.
I mean, do you blame him, Frank? I mean, Belichick was treating him like a rookie 20 years in. There's some guys that you make the exception, and you treat them a little bit differently. You treat Peyton Manning differently. You treat LeBron James differently. And, I mean, is it too much to not have to air out Tom Brady, the greatest quarterback of all time, treating him like a rookie, making him take pay cuts every single year? Do you really blame Tom, at least, for feeling that way?
I don't blame him, but because I can empathize with him doesn't mean I don't think he made the wrong decision. What happened is for 16 years, he didn't mind. And then for 4 years, he made it a point to have it make him miserable. That's a him problem. He changed his flow 16 years in. I understand if your point is, 16 years in with that many Super Bowls, why can't you just let him off the hook? Heard. Well, Belichick's in his 70s, so it would be on Brady to change that if that's the case. It's not that I don't understand it. I don't give him sympathy for it.
And you also have to think, too, all the years in the locker room, the practices, he would call up Brady in front of the team. And from everything that I've read from other people in the room, other teammates, they're like, whoa, he's calling out Tom Brady for making a dumb play. Saying, Tom, we could have got a receiver at Foxborough High to make that throw. Well, at that time, of course, it pisses Brady off, but it also pushes everybody. It pushes him. And, without that, I don't think we would have won 6 Super Bowls in terms of pushing everybody and treating everybody, not treating him just as a superstar. And let's face it, Brady was gone even if Belichick kissed his ass last year. He wanted a new start, and this team this year sucked. He wasn't coming back no matter what.
I think that he would have came back if they made him some guarantees, such as, the type of financial guarantees the Tampa Bucks gave him, and also the ability to bring in guys that he felt like he needed around him to win. He wasn't trying to get by with a terrible offense. At this point in his career, he's trying to set records as well as win. I guarantee you that's on his mind. He wants to go down in the record books. Every season, he's playing on borrowed time. And I don't blame Tom for doing anything he did. I'm a little upset at Belichick for not giving Tom the control he wanted. I feel as though there might have been, at some level, a minor ego struggle between the two, right? These are the two greatest respective. Yes, minor. I mean, let's be real. I mean, it's the greatest player of all time, potentially the greatest coach of all time. The greatest player of all time without the greatest coach sure looks pretty good. Now that he's been with his team for a while, he's settled in and he's kind of dialed in with all his weapons. Whereas the greatest coach of all time, I don't know how great he's looking this year without his, stud quarterback that he's been riding potentially the coattails of for the last 10 years. We'll see if Belichick can rebound and win one without Brady. But right now, if you had to make me bet who's going to win one, I'd put my money on Brady.
Yeah, I would totally put my money on Brady as well. And I feel like how many times do you say, oh, who's your favorite coach? How much time do we put stock behind all these great coaches and stuff? It's like everyone can answer who their favorite player is. We never talk about who the great coaches are and stuff like that. Sure, there's a few of them.
Except in the NFL. Except in the NFL. In the NFL, there's probably, 2 handfuls?
How many guys do you want to bring up aside from Belichick, though, really? I mean, There aren't even that
All
many.
timer right now. All timer right now.
Let's hear it, Frank. He's fired up.
I'm just saying, you have guys like Parcells. You have other guys on that list. You have Landry. You have Paul Brown, a coach who literally has an NFL team named after him. It's not just Belichick. The NFL is maybe the only league where coaching matters, so that I don't think that's fair to say. And the NBA, if you're not Phil Jackson or Larry Brown, kiss dicks. And the NFL, you're
Red hour
one
back.
of maybe
Red hour
15
back.
coaches
Red hour
that matter.
back. Red hour back.
Yeah, I consider him an executive. I get it. He was a coach. I consider him more of a head of basketball ops and a GM, but I heard you.
I mean, can you really say that coaching is everything? Well, like we've seen a guy in like Peyton Manning not necessarily need a great coach. I mean, we've seen certain guys. We're seeing Tom Brady, what he can do this year. He's got a dunce as a coach. I mean, who would take Bruce Arians? I mean, he goes from this team to that team, joins a completely different offense, and is having greater success than he had here. Sure, he got to pick his team, but I mean, he's playing with a complete idiot for a coach, and he's leading that team based on the way that he acts and the culture that he's brought singularly.
But I can't do it anymore, guys. I'm sorry. There's been no credit to Bill Belichick in this past couple minutes. You're talking about Peyton Manning. The first couple years in the playoffs, who beat Peyton Manning? Bill Belichick or Tom Brady?
Yeah.
How many interceptions did Ty Law have against? How many times did he come in? Everyone picks the Colts, and Belichick comes up with a plan. It was an even split, Brady and Belichick. The last Super Bowl, that was Belichick. That wasn't Brady. Like, I'm sorry. Like, this year, Brady had a great team. He's playing unbelievable. But to say that it's a one-year thing where, he leaves and Belichick, because of the team he has, and I don't blame him as a coach, I blame him as a GM. Like, he left us with shit. Let's face it. But as a coach, what this team has, I mean, it's pretty good. Could you see another coach in the NFL right now get us 6 wins with this team? Probably not. I mean, let's face it. He's the greatest coach in the sport history. Tom Brady's the greatest quarterback in the sports history. They made it work for 20 years, and they parted ways. That's plain and simple. There's no one to blame. They both wanted, Belichick wanted to go on. Brady went longer than Belichick hoped for. He went past 40. And when he did that, he had Garoppolo, and then Brady was still really good. I mean, it was just a tough situation. I'll leave it there.
No, you have a good point, but I will just say this as well. Did we not see Belichick make some more coaching decisions? Not that, we had Brady this year. We had no Brady. So to cover up for all those mistakes that you kind of miss out. I mean, over the years, there's been like the 4th and 2 and certain other decisions like that. I feel like Belichick wasn't necessarily up to par this year as he typically been. Like, sure, he did a good job with this roster, but didn't we see more mistakes and kind of, what you see without Tom Brady being here, basically?
Of course. You also have a much younger roster, right? Like, most of the time we have veterans, especially on defense. The amount of offsides we had, like defense, holding, and then on offensive line, like there were gaps. But that's because, A, we didn't get to practice as much. A lot of them were virtual, like Zoom practices, which Belichick is a practice guy. He wants to practice 5 days a week in person. This year it was a little bit different. But again, I don't know a coach in the NFL that could have got us 6 wins with this roster, especially with Cam Newton at quarterback.
All right, so while we're talking about Belichick, Javier Pena brings up a great point. Did you guys hear the whispers today that Belichick is potentially getting like between 20 to 25 million to coach this team?
No, I did not.
I mean, we thought that $100 million contract from, to John Gruden was a lot. And then we think that paying Tom Brady the $22 million over the last couple of years, if it turns out that Belichick's actually getting something like $20 million, I mean, this coaching job this year you've really got to put that under the microscope and give him some criticism, I'd say.
Where'd that come from? The article.
It came from Lombardi, who said something in jest to Greg Bedard, who then brought it up on the midday show on 98.5.
Okay. Well, if it came from Lombardi, it's pretty credible. He's pretty in with the Pats, but 25 mil.
I mean,
he's going to prove.
I could have picked. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say the greater point in the article was that, and I'm not sure it was a full article, was that some coaches should be getting paid more than their quarterback. Like you look at a Goff McVay situation, McVay gets what, 6 a year? Goff gets 30. That should virtually be flipped.
Yes.
The idea being Lombardi probably got that mentality from somewhere else, i.e. Bill.
But Bill is also
I mean,
GM
I can
too.
see that. Goff is literally a puppet. You know, he's got McVay's hand up his ass, you know, basically whispering into him the plays until he gets up to the line. I mean, Goff is seriously an absolute puppet at the quarterback position. So him getting that $30 million contract was a joke all the way.
If Bill's getting the 25 million, we'll see if he's worth it or not next year. I'll give him a pass on this year. You know, didn't have much of an option. There's 6 legitimate quarterback prospects in this draft. If we don't take one in round 1 or bring in a veteran like Matt Stafford, who Josh Dodd brought up earlier, or you know, Jimmy G, if we don't make a move for either of those two, Wentz, I would love to see even Wentz, honestly. I would love to see Wentz in New England. But
Wentz is
any of those three, I know he is going to Indy. It's pretty much a done deal behind the scenes. But what we see right now is an opportunity for us to draft a young guy and see if Bill can do it all over again. And we'll see if he's worth 25 million. If he has every year it's 11-5 and over, then he's worth it.
He's not drafting a quarterback. Like he's looking 4 years, 5 years max, because he wants to catch Schuler. He has enough time to like groom a quarterback. He wants the Stafford or the Garoppolo. Most likely Garoppolo, because he's probably going to get released because no one's going to take on that contract. Which if you don't have to trade any draft picks for, I mean, maybe. But if we're paying him the contract he got in San Fran, I'm out on that one because he gets hurt more than most females do. The guy's hurt like, literally every single week. Stafford plays through all injuries. He's one of the most underrated quarterbacks of the past 10 years. He's on the Lions, so no one talks about him. But he can make all the throws Mahomes can. He's just not as athletic. And I think he'd be great here. I really do. I've been saying Stafford for weeks now. That's the guy I want.
All right, well, guys, let's flip the page on the Pats. We always say that we don't want to spend. We're not going to spend any more time on a 7-9 team, but let's talk about a team that has totally switched things over, and that's the Buffalo Bills. They spanked the Dolphins this week, and Josh Allen is certainly worth the being mentioned in the MVP discussion. What do you guys think about the Bills' chances in the playoffs? Do you think they're legit? Are they a pretender? Are they a contender? What say you guys?
They're overrated. I know they're all the rage right now. I know Alex is going to tell you how much he loves them. I'll be short. They haven't done a whole lot of impressive things to playoff teams or even teams above 500. They've been bad against good teams, and they have destroyed bad teams. We'll see what happens in the playoffs.
They're going to be fantastic in the playoffs. There's no way around it. They're going to potentially – I really think that they're the only team. We're talking about the Bills, by the way, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. It cut out for a sec when you said what team, and I was like, I'm pretty sure it's the Bills then. But no, Josh Allen's been fantastic. Their defense is full of studs. Offense is looking great. I mean, they've got 2 stud running backs – not studs, but like very serviceable running backs in Singletary and Moss. They've got a great O-line. Josh Allen is a problem. And he's the type of guy that you've seen what Roethlisberger has been able to do in the playoffs. I think Allen has that same sort of magic to him, and he now has the weapons to do it. Beasley's been phenomenal. Obviously, Diggs has been, arguably the best receiver in the NFL this year. And then you have John Brown, who's as good of a third option as you'll find in the league outside of, what you have in Tampa Bay. And I think that the Bills are going to come in and absolutely, they're my pick to come out of the AFC this year, and I'm rooting for them to get to the Super Bowl.
They definitely have the best chance against the Chiefs. I don't think that they'll beat the Chiefs, but obviously offensively, like everything Alex said with John Brown, Diggs, they have 2 solid running backs, but more so on the defensive side, the secondary. They have a Pro Bowler cornerback. They have 2 solid safeties. Their middle linebacker, who's a freaking beast, is like 22. He covers the entire field, and they have a great defensive tackle. I really like their coach. It sucks that there's no fans in the stands because I feel like playing in Buffalo and in playoffs.
Buffalo's getting 10,000 fans for the game, or 6,000 fans.
Okay, well,
Yeah, New York made a special exception to get the Bills some fans.
Thank you, Cuomo. That was nice of you.
Hey, when they actually make the playoffs, they'll pull all the strings.
yeah, of course. He's a Bills fan, but I don't want to talk politics. But yeah. So I do think the Bills have great offense, great defense. I just think they're maybe a year early. What I mean by that is, I think next year they'll get a couple more veterans and be that team that gets to the Super Bowl. I think they're good enough to get the AFC Championship game. I don't think they'll be able to take down the Chiefs, though.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you on that. I think that they are a good team, but I think they are pretty solid. But I don't see anybody knocking off the Chiefs. Talk about a team that has kind of come back. They were good last year, but the Packers and Aaron Rodgers. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is certainly putting up an MVP caliber year. They wrap up the NFC first seed. They wrap up a first round bye, knocking off the Bears the other day. Let's do the same thing. Are the Packers legit? Are they fake? What do you guys think about the Packers and their chances to make it through the NFC playoffs?
Packers are my favorite team. I mean, you look at they feel like the team of destiny. The Bucks whipped them earlier this year. I know Frank's going to talk about that, but I'll tell you right now, this Packers team, they have something special going on this year, and I see them as the team that's got to come out of the NFC. It's either them or the Saints, but I'm leaning Packers. Rodgers has been unbelievable. It's been a renaissance year for him. Definitely the MVP of the league. His wide receivers are coming around. His running game is great. I am such a fan of what the Packers have put together and the coaching that they have. I mean, thank God they got rid of Mike McCarthy. He's down and ruining the Cowboys, which is super fun for me to watch. Packers coming out of the NFC. I couldn't be a bigger believer.
The Packers are a lot better than I thought they'd be, and I have to just admit that. I will tell you the last time they were the number one seed, they got beat in the very first round. My big thing with it's going to be them or the Saints. I don't see any other team coming out of the NFC. I can see, because styles make fights, I just see the Packers probably winning because Drew Brees cannot go to Lambeau in January and do a whole lot. And if you're telling me that the Saints are going to win because it's a Taysom Hill game, I'm not going to put very much money on that.
It's funny. I agree with what Frank said, and we're going to talk Redskins in a little bit. I think I have a take that I don't think the Bucks get past the Redskins, and I think that's going to help the Packers get to the Super Bowl. Obviously, Drew Brees not being in the Superdome, that helps as well. It's just hard this year. I really feel like Rodgers has it. Aaron Jones is doing great. Devontae Adams is healthy, which is huge. And that tight end they have, I forget his name, starts with a T, but I mean, he had 11 touchdowns? They're just on all cylinders. The second year in that offense for Rodgers. I'm big on the Packers, especially with the number one seed, not having to go to the Superdome.
All right. Well, let's move on to the awards. I know we definitely want to get awards in tonight. So let's talk about MVP. We talked about it a little bit with Aaron Rodgers. He certainly have a great year. I want to start out with my pick for MVP. He's not going to get all the credit that he probably should. But I'm going with Derrick Henry, becoming the 8th player to run for 2,000 yards. He needed 223 yards, I believe, to hit the 2,000 mark in the game the other day against the Texans. Runs for 200 yards in 3 straight games against the Texans, going back to last year. This is a guy that's run for the most amount of touchdowns in any 2,000-yard year outside of Terrell Davis's year where he had 19 touchdowns. I just feel like that they're going to be running the ball every single time, and that Ryan Tannehill isn't a great quarterback. They kind of set everything on top of him, and Derrick Henry is just going to run straight ahead, and he's going to go for about 200 yards every game. And it's just been something where the last few years, they're going to put the ball in his hands, and he can just run them to victory, especially over the last couple of weeks of the year. So I feel like, sure, he's not going to get all the attention. This is a quarterback award. It should be the most valuable quarterback. But, in a league where we probably didn't think that there was going to be another 2,000-yard rusher after Adrian Peterson, what Derrick Henry has done this year is really, nothing short of amazing. eclipsing that 2,000-yard mark. And, I've definitely got to go with Derrick Henry. What do you got? Where are you guys going for MVP?
Patrick Mahomes. And the only reason that this is even close, and for the record, I love the Derrick Henry thing. I wish that it was an actual possibility because I jumped to your team. Because I think if the Titans won 15 games, he might get actual consideration, but he won't. So I can't waste my time with it. Patrick Mahomes did something that I don't think I've ever seen done in my lifetime. He won 5 games on the road against double-digit win teams. And in these games, 4 of them, let me read them off. Baltimore won by 2 touchdowns on the road. Baltimore never had the opportunity with the ball to take the lead after the first quarter. Buffalo, week 6, on the road, beat them by more than a touchdown, 2 possessions. Buffalo never had the opportunity to take the lead after the third quarter with 8 minutes to go. New Orleans, they beat them in New Orleans, 32-29. The score is misleading because New Orleans didn't get the ball with a chance to tie or take the lead after the first half. And they beat Tampa. I don't want to get into it because I'm going to already tell you how Washington's going to beat them. I'll leave that aside, but they got the brakes beat off them too. Miami's the only team that in the fourth quarter got the ball with a chance to take the lead or win. He's 15-1. If anybody else, he has 5,000 total yards, single-digit turnovers, picks, and fumbles lost. 40 touchdowns. Stop now. Stop it.
Well,
wow. You go ahead, Alex.
I mean, you guys know my case, Aaron Rodgers. I mean, like I said, he's got, I think, about 10% of his passes this year have been for touchdowns. The guy's been incredible. He's thrown 1 out of every 100 balls. He's less than 1 out of every 100 balls he's thrown has been interception. His ratios are absurd. He's put up great yardage. His team's the number 1 team in the NFC. I mean, really, he's checked all the boxes. And on top of that, the media would rather have Rodgers win MVP than Mahomes. The Mahomes fatigue is happening, and it's here. It's here. He's approaching that level of greatness where it's like, how can we find ways to not give it to Mahomes? Right now, if you really want to make an argument, I still think Rodgers edges him out without that, but that's what's going to blow the doors off this and make them hand that trophy to Rodgers.
Well, my guy Cam Newton should have won, but
yeah.
No, I'm going to go with another AFC East quarterback, and that's Josh Allen. Josh Allen threw for 4,500 yards, 37 touchdowns, 10 picks. He also rushed for 8 touchdowns and ran for almost 500 yards. Think about that for a second. I mean, that's just ridiculous. Last year, or I guess when they got Diggs, everyone wondered, well, how is Diggs going to get the ball? Like, Josh Allen he's not a very accurate quarterback. This year, he's making majority of the same throws that Mahomes making. He's not on that same level of Mahomes and Rodgers yet. But I think this year he came out of nowhere. No one expected this type of season for Josh Allen. The Buffalo Bills are in the playoffs for the first time in 20 years. They have a really good chance to get in the AFC Championship game. And he's just on another level. I mean, Stephon Diggs could be considered in the MVP conversation, top 10 maybe, how good his season was as well. Just saying, Josh Allen, boss. And he's a problem for the Patriots for the next decade.
Yikes.
Do you know what Josh Allen and Reggie Bush have in common? They're both willing to lateral the ball behind them in a playoff game. Josh Allen will never win an MVP because he's just not got it between the ears. And I used to say it with Jay Cutler, there's certain quarterbacks, they can throw a pillow through a keyhole. Love him. Love the arm. He's just not built to win big games, I don't think. Great coach. He has an amazing coach, and he has a wonderful coordinator, and they're making the transition easier for him. That's why he took such a leap. But I have no faith that you could win behind him.
I thought you were going to say Kim Kardashian. I'm like, Josh Allen, he went to like Wyoming. He didn't know who Kim Kardashian is. Between him and Reggie Bush, similarities. But no. Let's go to Devontae
No, they both
Smith
throw behind them in big moments in playoff games.
I mean, my last point on Henry, too, the last thing I'll say before we go to defensive player is in a year where basically no other back really ran for over 1,000 yards, like the guys that ran for 1,000, it's like him and Cook. And then he ran for, the next guy after Cook ran for 1,100 yards. And then there's a couple guys who just made it over 1,000. So Derrick Henry in the avenue where it's the toughest in a passing league, he's just absolutely dominating like the amount of yards that anybody's getting. And beating it by basically 500 yards. It'd be like if another quarterback threw for like 6,500 yards compared to the other guys out there. So, I just think it's really incredible what he's done this year. But let's go on to Defensive Player of the Year before we get into the NBA. I'm going to start out with my pick. And if I really had to pick, I would probably go with Aaron Donald. But I do have a really good argument for this next guy. Aaron Donald is getting double teamed and triple teamed more than anyone and still makes an impact. But I'm going to go with Xavier Howard, the cornerback for the Dolphins. The Dolphins this year come out and they win 10 games. Obviously, they suck in the last game, but they win 10 games. They have a pretty good defense. Xavier Howard's the first guy to pick off 10 balls since 2007. Probably had the best year from a corner since 2008 when Darrelle Revis had that year. And like I was just saying, in a passing league, I mean, he's just that much more valuable. He led the league in interceptions and passes defended. He was just all over the field this year. And coming off an ACL injury, I don't think anybody was expecting anything like that for Xavier Howard. So 10 wins for a team that won 5 wins last year, playing on one of the better defenses, picking off that many balls, and joining some pretty elite company. Give me Xavier Howard.
Yeah, I don't have a great case statistically, which is why I'll go next because I'll be quick. I just think the answer is Jalen Ramsey. I think he does bully elite receivers regularly. I think he is the best corner I've seen since Darrelle Revis. He might be the only legitimate shutdown corner I've seen in this league since Darrelle Revis. When's the last time some dude caught 8 balls for 100 yards on him? I want to know. I looked it up for about 10 minutes today. I couldn't find it. D-Hop's got him for 7 a couple times, but he's never broken away. And for a guy who plays D-Hop twice a year since he came into the league, I mean, he does so much for that Rams defense who's lost so many players. And the idea that they've just built behind Donald and Ramsey has been wonderful. And I think Ramsey's unbelievable. He's never going to get those stats because they're not going to throw at him. Xavier Howard was coming off an ACL injury. They were testing him. It proved wrong for people who did that because he made them pay. But nobody's going to try Ramsey like that, so he'll not get that chance.
All right, so I'm going to go and I'm going to make our boy Whitey happy with this pick here, TJ Watt. So obviously last year I felt like he should have had it over Gilmore just based on the sacks and the impact he had in the team. But this year, each year he's been there, his sack numbers have gone up, 13, 14, 15. But this year, tackles for loss, the first 3 years, 10, 12, 14. This year, 23. QB hits, 41. That's double than last year. He is the Steelers' defense. Fitzpatrick's been really good in the secondary, but TJ Watt is a top 5 defensive player in this league now. And it's crazy how good he's gotten because he was drafted 30th overall.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'll tell you who's going to win it. It's going to be TJ Watt. I wanted to come in and I wanted to make the case for Aaron Donald, being an all-time disruptor defensive tackle. He led the league in triple teams. The guy is someone that you have to know where he is every single play, right? But because of that, his stats suffered. He's not going to have the crazy statistical season that we saw from other guys. Xavier Howard having 10 interceptions, a TJ Watt doing everything that he's done. I think that you have to go TJ Watt, especially, being the heart and soul of a defense for a team that won so many games straight. And then really the only thing that killed the Steelers all season was their offense. Their offense is the only thing that lost them games at times. It wasn't their defense.
You know what else killed them? They lost Bush and Dupree, though, and even though they've not been bad, they've not been the same defense since they lost those 2 players. They just haven't.
And another reason why Watt should win it, because he's been carrying the defense, especially the linebackers, for a solid 6-7 weeks now. It hasn't looked pretty,
he's been by
he's
himself
only
and his numbers haven't dipped. That's the best case for him, is that he's been by himself for the latter half of the season and his numbers haven't dipped. The thing that, and you brought this stat up, and I'm going to steal it from you, Alex. We were going over this in prep. Aaron Donald has been triple teamed 20% of the time, was it? I mean, it's really staggering how much attention he commands. the Vegas odds, in case anybody was wondering, it's basically T.J. Watt and Aaron Donald or no one else. It's those two guys, and that's it. It's probably Watt's going to win it, but I think Aaron Donald is probably the singular defensive player who has the most amount of time devoted to him in camps, in meetings, in preparation for other teams throughout the season. Everybody's got that guy circled, highlighted, double check marked, and he still disrupts as much as he does. It's crazy.
It really is. I mean, they should just give. I feel like Aaron Donald should have like 5 of these awards. I mean,
what's he at, 2 right now? He won.
I think he's at 2.
He won the 2 before Gilmore won last year, and the fatigue's going to set him with Donald too. He's going to have a crazy season to win it again.
Agreed.
He gets triple teamed. If he got double teamed, imagine how many sacks he get. He gets triple teamed 20% of the time. And I'm pretty sure the Pats tried to do that, and he still had 2 sacks. So.
Yeah, I saw a clip of T.J. Watt beating a triple team the other day and still sacking Tannehill in less than 3 seconds. I mean, that guy deals with a lot too. I mean, just 2 guys having really impressive years. A lot of guys were leaving out of there too. Myles Garrett having a good year as well. But let's go to the NBA, and let's start it out with the home team as always. Celtics, 5-3, second in the Atlantic, winning a pretty good game against the Raptors, who just haven't really had it this year. I think we would have liked that win a lot more in years past, over the past couple of years, but we don't see it necessarily the same way as we do this year. I think it was really nice to see Tatum come out and score 40, but I think the 2 things everybody's really talking about here in Boston are, one, how good Jaylen Brown has been this year. And he's really kind of taken that next step, being a bona fide number 2 on probably a championship team, it looks like he can be. And still at the young age of 23. So the step he's taken, but then it's been P-Rabbit, Payton Prichard, a guy that, I thought he was penciled for the Maine Red Claws. I thought you were talking about Danny stacking up the team up in Maine this year. But the 26th overall pick this year has done a whole lot, and he scores 23 and puts up 8 assists in the game last night. Puts up 8 assists as well. Goes 2 of 4 from 3 as well. He's just been flat out impressive. Getting a nickname before Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. And the team is definitely embracing him. The superstars are embracing him. Can't say enough about Payton Prichard this far into the season.
I think his nickname's the GOAT because he's the greatest of all time. In all seriousness, though, you could tell from pretty early on that he was going to be a difference maker. I'm not getting on the bandwagon that he should start for this team. I think could be a good player, especially in the playoffs, to come off. He changes the tempo of the game, especially on offense, but on defense as well, getting steals, getting charges. That's a good story, but the big thing right now is Jaylen Brown. I'm pretty sure he's second in the NBA in points right now, which is it's like he doesn't get talked about in the city. It's always Jason Tatum, which understandably so. He is the franchise. But Jaylen Brown, he's been way more efficient on both ends of the floor. He's getting a little bit better at passing. His free throw percentage is almost at 76%. It was almost at 60 last year. And his three-point shooting, it's unbelievable. I mean, everyone's talking about Tatum. I think Jaylen Brown needs to be in the conversation for having the best season so far on the Celtics roster.
Yeah, totally agree. I've been a Jaylen believer since day one. Extremely smart kid. And to the idea that general managers were turned off on him because he was too smart is hilarious to me. But I honestly think that we got the best player in that entire draft class with Jaylen Brown when we drafted him. And now all these years later, you'd have to put him right now. He's in the top 10 in MVP in the MVP discussion, him and Tatum. They're both up there. And they look fantastic. I love what Jaylen's doing on both ends. They both look so much better and freer. Having the ball in their hands, watching them both play, it's been amazing. I think that having this young team, it's excited me about this Celtics team. They're not supposed to go out there and win a championship for the first time in a few years. They're really not supposed to. And this is a team that we can all get behind as Celtics fans and be excited about. And, it's like these expectations we've had, they're realistic, but our team wasn't quite there, whether it be injuries, Hayward getting hurt, Kyrie getting hurt, or there's the team at Kemba being hurt last year as well. It's just been a tough run, and we need youth on our side. And I love what Danny's built. I love what's being put out on the floor. And I'm excited to see this next era of Celtics basketball. And I'm glad Danny didn't trade these guys away, because we probably would have had year-long rental of Kawhi and a year-long rental of AD if he did.
You might have had a year-long rental of a championship, but that's besides the point. Listen, I miss the days, because I'm old enough to remember when you needed to be good to get a nickname. I believe Jeremy Lin went 14 games and about 40 days before he got the nickname Linsanity. This P-Rabbit must be the best 7-game player I've ever seen Boston take to. It's unbelievable. And the offense has looked really good with him. I just think everybody needs to slow their damn roll, because he's not that good and he's still undersized. One thing I'll say about this team this year, because I picked them to win the East, I think we have a logjam of ball handlers, which we've almost had every year that we've been good under Brad Stevens. But I think for the first time, enough of them are selfless, and it's finally going to work for us. At the same time that Brown and Tatum are taking a next step, Kemba's hurt, realizing his own mortality, and guys like Prichard and Smart are humble enough to understand their roles. So for the first time in years, that logjam at guard might not be our Achilles heel.
Yeah, I mean, I was so wrong with Jaylen Brown. I thought he was a guy that got drafted with an NBA body and tried pretty hard. I thought he would never pass like the 15-point a game point. And I think we've really just seen this guy so many times. We say it's tough to develop a shot. This is a guy that's developed a shot over the past few years. I mean, he's almost shooting 60% from the field. He's shooting over 40% from three. I mean, you can't say enough about what this guy has done and the steps that he has done to improve his game at the NBA level. Javier Pena, it keeps bringing the heat tonight, saying all-star, most improved, one of the best two-way guards. And I think, without Klay Thompson, and, you definitely have to put Jaylen Brown up there in that discussion. I think he's definitely one of the most improved players this year. And, he can really shoot, especially from two, but he takes it to the rack a lot too. And he just seems to be one of those guys that you don't have to remind every night that they need to be aggressive to get theirs.
I feel like obviously shooting has come along like a lot, but the big thing for him has been his dribbling. When he gets the ball, it seems like the game slows down for him. Sorry, I hear an echo.
Is that from me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry about that. One sec, guys.
Oh, good. All right, good. So as I was saying, when Jaylen Brown gets the ball now, I just feel like he knows what to do, and he has so much confidence in everything he can do. Step back shots, go into the hoop, finding the open man. Think back to his rookie year. He was the athletic guy that could get to the hoop sometimes, but when he got the ball, like he just ran and got stolen from him. He had no idea. The game has slowed down for him, and he has so much confidence now that it's like you want Tatum to have that swagger, and he's not there yet. He has the talent. He has more talent. He's just not there yet, and he's younger. And Jaylen Brown's had to work for everything in the city. Jason Tatum got a red carpet first night of the opening night with Irving, Hayward, the whole team. Jaylen Brown's had to earn everything. And I'm so proud and so happy that he has become the player he is. And I think he's only going to get better too.
So in the NBA, young guys typically come in and they struggle on defense. And I always said that Jaylen Brown is somewhere in that Jimmy Butler, Kawhi Leonard mold, and we'll see how good he is when he gets there. But he's that type of player, and he struggled on defense. What he's done, and that's why I'm stealing from Xavier, and I'll steal from Justin too, because Justin's something you glanced over. His free throw percentage being up in that mid-70s is huge if he's going to be a number 2 guy on a championship team. Do not underestimate that. Free throws it's going to come down to free throws in the playoffs, and to be able to rely on him when he's going to have the ball in his hands, huge. Can't underestimate underestimate that. And the fact that Jaylen Brown is finally the elite defensive player that he's supposed to be, awesome. Because we're going to need Jason Tatum to do that as well if we're going to be that team. We need Brown to rub off on Tatum more than the other way around. Tatum's got the higher ceiling, but he needs more of what Brown has between the ears.
Preach. I've been saying this all year. I wish Tatum had Brown's balls. Like, I just want him to be that killer. And he's too reserved, too nice, and it's going to come with time. But Jaylen Brown's been that killer since day one.
He has. And to go around the league, someone who's been a killer for a long time now is Steph Curry. 4 out of the last 5 games, over 30 points, including a 62-point whopper the other night. And, one of the really, historic performances, really. If you watch that game, he went 18 of 19 from free throw. He was just unconscious from 3. But he was somebody who got out to a cold start. And the Warriors definitely, without Klay Thompson, I feel like you've really seen the Warriors, just look a lot more just not look as good. I feel like we really can see what Klay Thompson's value to that team has been without him being there over the last couple of years. But a lot of people said this team can't make the playoffs, this and that. Steph Curry's done. But honestly, Steph Curry, I feel like he is making defenders look foolish in a way that I feel like he hasn't before with his handles. I feel like he is making guys look even dumber and dumber, with just being able
dumber
to
than
juke
Chris
guys.
Paul? Dumber than Chris Paul? He made Chris Paul fall now.
I just feel like Steph Curry's handles have really stood out to me this year. And I just feel like he's a guy that we've kind of talked about. He's going to be an ageless. He's going to be able to shoot forever. But it seemed like he just really kind of reclaimed his spot the other night, and averaging over 30 for the season. Frank, I know you're a Steph hater. I don't necessarily love him, but let's hear what you got to hate on him for.
I am not a Steph hater. I just like facts. And the fact remains that when Draymond and Klay don't play in Steph Curry's career, he's under 500. When Klay Thompson doesn't play in Steph Curry's career, he's 13-9. He averages 21.6 points. All right, let me let that sit with you. He's the only unanimous NBA MVP ever. When he doesn't have his Robin, he's less than 22 points a game, just so we're clear. He has never, ever been the best player on a team that won a championship, ever. He was the third in MVP voting. The finals he won against LeBron without Durant. And then when Durant got there, he was an afterthought. And he never averaged 20 a game in the finals before Durant.
Before Alex's head explodes, and maybe all of us collectively, who was the best player on that first Warriors team?
Who won finals MVP?
Iguodala.
Oh, my God.
Hold on.
Going full Kellerman.
Who was voted second? Who got more votes? Steph Curry was third in votes. Who was second? Who should have won MVP in that series?
LeBron.
Draymond. Draymond's not better than Steph Curry. He meant more to that championship because when he didn't play the next year, they lost. When he missed one game the next year, they lost.
And it was his fault they lost that game for kicking someone in the ding-dong. All right? That's on Draymond.
Sure.
You are not going to say that Draymond is more impactful than Steph Curry. I was with you until you went there.
Just because the fans voted on Iguodala and Draymond over Steph, that doesn't mean anything. Steph was the best player on the floor. All of the attention offensively is on Steph Curry every play. You got to pick him up at half court that year.
Hold on. Thompson was the best player in the Houston series, right? The first time they played Houston, Thompson was the best player. Durant was the best player the second time. Every time he's played LeBron, he hasn't been the best player on the court. Every time and then for the other 2 championships he won, he wasn't the best player on his own team. He's an elite player. He's better than the other point guards of his generation. He's right up there a notch above Chris Paul. He's also super overrated and has never brought a team on his back to a championship, ever, including the one he won without Durant.
No, he did that first year.
He did that first year. You got to give him more credit. I can't believe you're going to put Draymond over him in terms of importance to that championship. Seriously?
I'm just confused. One part, you're saying he's overrated, but you're saying he's the best point guard of his generation. So which one is it?
It's both. No. Two things can be true.
I'm not the
Point
biggest
guard-
Curry fan either, but I'm confused.
Listen, point guards and centers no longer have the effect they have on wins in the NBA. Two things can be true. You haven't had a whole lot of point guards be the best player on a championship team in the last 30 years. So he can be the best of a bunch of point guards that didn't win a title. He can be better than Irving, than Chris Paul, than Westbrook, than John Wall. He can be better than all of them and still be overrated, and still not be better than Isaiah Thomas, the original, and still not be better than some of the other elite point guards of all time.
I must say the best point guard on a championship team that wasn't supposed to be was J.J. Barrera. So, I mean, when he won that with the Mavs, that was incredible.
You sleeping on Rodney Bobois?
Yeah, I just think with Curry, I just want to backstep a little bit. Like, this team is new this year. They got Oubre. They drafted James Wiseman. Their bench is completely new. Wiggins is in his second year. Draymond Green missed, the first 3 or 4 games? Like, this team needs time to develop. To think that the Warriors weren't going to make the playoffs is ridiculous. Will they make it out of the first round? Probably not. But they're going to get the 7 or 8 seed. And if Curry gets the picks with Green, Wiseman, and they have a decent veteran bench too with James Looney setting picks for him, he's going to average close to 30 points a game because he's just going to be like Trae Young shooting all game. He looks healthy. He missed a whole year. He looks good. I think everyone's blowing this up though because it's Steph Curry and the media loves Steph Curry. Like I said, I agree with you, Frank. He is a bit overrated. The media loves him because he's the sweetheart of the NBA and he can do all these crazy threes. But when push comes to shove in the playoffs, he's never really performing at the level he does in regular season.
Not once.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even love Steph, but I just do feel like a lot of people were kind of hating on him early on to this season. And, it is still pretty impressive that he's like 32 years old and still able to score 30, at will kind of at this age. Let's get out to some of the hot starts and some of the not hot starts. Talking about hot starts, you have Christian Wood down there in Houston, who's averaging 24 and 10. Feel like that guy, ever since he got off the Pistons, he's just really kind of put the pedal to the metal and been one of the feel-good stories about the NBA. One of the guys who I've got to jab Frank a little bit here is not starting out too well is Donovan Mitchell. Frank, care to explain?
Donovan Mitchell, averaging 20 points a game, lowest ever. 37% from the field, lowest ever. 34% from 3, lowest ever. He's a minus player this year. Minus player. When he's on the court, his team, in fact, loses. But his team is 4-2. He's got a nice, happy big man without Corona and a max contract. And I think the problem is, and what I narrowed it down to, because I went back and watched it because I wanted to be able to explain it, he's pressing very hard. He went from pretty much 2.7, 2.8 turnovers in every season to he's up to 3.5 this year. He's simply trying to do too much. I don't know what that's indicative of. I need to watch a whole game start to finish. I have no doubt he'll turn it around, but it's bad. He's got a tight sphincter this year.
One of the other biggest disappointments for me this year has been Zion Williamson. I think we thought so much of this guy coming out of college, and this guy can jump out of the gym. He's 285, but quite frankly, he just hasn't come in the shape that he needs to. He's below 20 points on the year. He just hasn't been as dynamic this year and taken the step, I think, that people thought he was going to take. What are you guys' thoughts on Zion so far into this year? And as an NBA player as a whole?
I thought that Zion, when they first got to the bubble, like he looked like he was in shape. Like the gap between the end of the regular season to the bubble, they didn't go in the playoffs, but they played a couple games in the bubble. He looked like he was in shape. And then I think he went to downtown Mardi Gras and just had himself a good old time because he looks like James Harden, looks like a doughboy. Like, dude, you're a professional freaking athlete. Like, you're probably one of the freakest athletes in all of sports. What is he, 6'9", and he can jump out of a gym? But my God, man, get your shit together. Like the Pelicans actually have a decent roster. I think getting Adams down there changes a lot for them, especially the center position. And Lonzo Ball, like he looks decent, and Brandon Ingram looks phenomenal. Zion Williamson's the only one holding them back, and he's supposed to be the franchise. But I'll say one thing. biggest surprise this year has been my boy Markelle Fultz. He could not shoot a free throw 2 years ago. They were showing videos of him, and he looked like he was shooting them blindfolded. Like, he couldn't lift his arms up. It was like kind of like this, and it was like airballing. And now he has contract. He got paid, not as much as players that got drafted after him in the draft, but understandably so. But he's doing great, and I think everyone in the NBA is happy for him, because I think everyone thought he was going to be the next Sean Livingston, a bench player that never did anything.
Whoa! Sean Livingston's knee blew up. That's not fair.
Yeah, but Markelle
You can't do
Fultz,
anything when there's a mushroom cloud in your knee.
Frank, Markelle Fultz had a broken heart. Same thing.
If we're staying on the Zion talk, I think Zion's a beast. We're talking about a guy who played 20, 30 games last year. You know, he needs a little bit of time. He's easing into it. Yes, he's a little fat. He'll figure it out. It's tough with the bubble, everything going on. You know, you're sitting around, you're looking on your Grubhub, looking on your Postmates. Next thing you know, you order a bucket of chicken and, China food and whatever. It happens. And he's 20 years old? I'm cutting Zion a bit of a break, but I agree the opportunity is there right now for the Pelicans to actually make some noise. And he's got a great opportunity to make a playoff push in his second year and make the playoffs and make some noise in the playoffs. And I think Zion needs to take his conditioning a little bit more seriously. And, I mean, the eye test, he's still the same player as last year to me, and I love his potential. I don't think he's the next LeBron James, though. I really don't.
Guys, I'm concerned. What you see in Zion Williamson is a guy who's supposed to be a lot like Charles Barkley. And he's already going the Weight Watchers way of Charles Barkley. All he needs to do to be successful is look at what Charles did and do that at twice the athlete that Charles ever dreamed of being. But I don't think that Zion Williamson has been in shape since he broke his shoe in college. I think he's just been the most athletic guy with the fastest, most nonstop motor, which you don't even get in the NBA all the time. And it just leads to him being able to roll out of bed and put up 20 and 10. None of us have seen the best Zion Williamson since maybe high school. I mean, he just hasn't had a coach get him with a real diet and turn him into the player he needs to be. I'm concerned, guys. I don't think he's been in shape, and now we're talking about a year and a half as a professional athlete.
So we're talking about fat boys. How about James Harden 2-3 weeks ago? He looked like a homeless person that just got off a 7-week McDonald's bender. He showed up, that was out to here. He had his hair down there. He looked like he wanted nothing to do. Since he stepped on the court, he's like, this is boring. I'm just going to get triple doubles. I'm too good at this. It's ridiculous that guy can go party in Vegas for 3 months, gain a ton of weight, and then within 2 weeks be in elite shape and just doing what he always does. I don't like James Harden, but I don't know what his body's like, his genes, but it is remarkable what his body can do.
He fat.
Seriously looked like he was sweating gravy a few weeks ago.
He still had 33 in the first half. That same game where all those memes and pictures came from, he had 33 in the first half. He scored 41 after doing nothing but go to strip clubs for months. That's impressive. He might be an all-time loser, but he's all-time offensive talented. Don't make a mistake now. I've read somewhere, I think it's 36 a game right now. I mean, the guy's just going bonkers, and he's out of shape and could not care less about playing for Houston.
Hey, Frank, Eggs and Legs, best workout program there is in the NBA.
Yeah, so that brings up a good point. Harden, he does have probably the worst work ethic. He seems to be destroying that team. It seems like everything that comes out about him is bad as far as how he is with his teammates, how he acts for treatment. But he is averaging over 30 points over the last 3 years, and he's probably going to do it for a fourth. At age 31, just how long do you guys think he can score like this? I mean, we've heard that he's probably the best offensive. I've heard some people have said that he's the best offensive player to play the game or whatever. How long do you think he can continue to score like this?
You got another 3 years, and then you got another 3 years of him being still a good scorer, but not this.
As long as they'll accept him in strip clubs, he'll be elite.
Yeah, I don't think you can. I think probably 3 more years of Harden being an elite scorer, but I think he's going to have to be the second fiddle somewhere sooner than later if he actually wants to win a championship. He's not I don't think he's the best player on a championship team. I really don't.
I think he kind of needs to do what LeBron did in terms of getting a superstar younger than him, and maybe the first year he's still at elite level, but the second and third year kind of letting that player take over and him being the second fiddle.
Yeah, I mean,
Is
if
Harden
you
capable of
put
that?
Harden with Anthony Davis, they probably would have won the championship last year. But Anthony Davis is not walking through that door. Yeah,
but can he do that? But can he do that? He could go somewhere and be a 2, and that would be a dangerous team because James Harden as a 2 is unbelievable. Can he do that? Can he go somewhere and subjugate his ego and be a 2?
If he went to Philly,
forfeiting that he can do that. I don't think he can do that.
if he went to Philly, I think he would be a 2 to Embiid because it would elevate Embiid's game to becoming that true number 1. Embiid's the best center in the NBA when he actually wants to play.
It's basketball porn. I agree.
Yeah,
that is the only landing spot.
And, you got Doc Rivers barking on the sidelines. I think it would be good. But I don't see any star. Like, he's not going to play with Giannis. They hate each other. I don't see any elite young player that can complement his game.
Jokic?
All right, well, let's finish it on
Jokic
this,
could be
guys.
good.
Last year, we saw probably the hottest team in the bubble was the Suns. They didn't even end up making it. They won 8 games there. They start out this year with a torrid start as well. They're 5-2. They're first in the West. Chris Paul has absolutely had a tangible effect on that team. Averaging 8.5 assists, not doing anything crazy with points or scoring this year. Or rebounding really, or even defensively, he hasn't been as good as he has in past years. But the Phoenix Suns starting out atop the West, and Chris Paul, we saw what he did last year with the Thunder. Is there's something real to this Chris Paul effect? And do you guys think that the Suns are for real? We've seen them do it for 8 games at a time through last year's bubble and through the start of this year. Are they for real at this point?
No.
I'll take it.
Good. I'm glad nobody said anything. No, they're not.
I'll take it.
And I'd love
no,
for them to be.
no.
They've
Go
got
ahead,
the talent. Look, here's the thing. Chris Paul has a tangible effect and will make your team a better team. There's a ceiling on that, especially as he gets older and he wears on people. This team will go as far as DeAndre Ayton takes them. Because I gave up on Booker. Booker's a superstar. He's elite. Gave up on it. I give you that. Chris Paul's going to make your team better in the locker room. They're going to take this more serious. They're going to be better. They're going to be more driven towards winning. DeAndre Ayton is that guy or he isn't. I'm super high on him, so I think that won't be a problem. But if he can't get you, 20 on a night when those 2 guards can't get you something, along with 12 boards and a couple blocks, that team's not going to have a very long shelf life in the playoffs.
I was literally going to say that. DeAndre Ayton has been a bust so far. DeAndre Ayton should be putting up 20 and 10. He should be putting up LaMarcus Aldridge type numbers. And it's just, where is it? I look at the box score sometimes and it's like 12 points, 6 rebounds. He plays 35 minutes. It's like, you were the number 1 pick of the draft. You're supposed to be the next up-and-coming Embiid in terms of low-post scoring. You are a specimen in terms of athleticism. He can't play defense. And he's just there. He's not taking that next step. And guess what? His contract's up next year, I'm pretty sure, for that max payday. He's been in the league for 3 years, so maybe it's next year.
Man, the Suns.
Are you going to pay him? Because I wouldn't pay him. I'd look to trade him.
They're going to have to pay him. They're going to pay him, but I don't. It's crazy to me how bad they bundled the first 2 picks of that draft with Bagley and Ayton.
Oh God, I forgot that was
going over Luka and Trae Young. Like, oh my God. Can you imagine being a fan of the Suns and imagining Luka Doncic out there with that team instead of Ayton? Oh my God.
They took Josh Jackson. They took Dario Saric. They've taken so many, or Bender. They've just taken so many guys. They've taken the wrong guy every year that they had these top picks.
Jaren Jackson was taken 4th. He's been better than Aiden at number 1. And Jaren Jackson hasn't been great. But when he's played, he's a difference maker. Aiden's just there. I don't think he actually cares about basketball or being great. He's just good at it. That's the problem. Him and Chris Paul are going to butt heads this year.
All right. Well, with that said, that's going to do it for us in terms of the first episode of the year. We appreciate everybody for tuning in, rocking with us tonight. We'll see you next week. Same time, same place. Fellas, thanks. And we'll see everybody next week. Justin, you need to do stand-up, says Javier.
It's Xavier.